So I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the GRS. I'd like to welcome everybody. I'd like to start with a roll call, please.
Trustee Caldwell,
Present.
Trustee Clendenin,
Good morning, present.
Trustee Dorsey. Absent. Trustee Liger,
Present.
Trustee McDonald. Absent. Trustee Smith, Trustee Smith,
She's looks like she's on mute.
she is on mute, but you know. Trustee Smith, absent. Trustee Barry,
Present.
4 present, 3 absent.
Hi,
Okay.
Mr. Nibs, I'm present.
Five present, 2 absent.
Okay, just for my roll call here. So the 5 present are who?
Alwood, Clendenin, Liger, Smith, Barry.
Okay. Okay, so let's jump right into it. We have a fairly lengthy agenda. I'd like to use the time as efficiently as possible. So the third item on the agenda, Mr. Secretary, is for comments and suggestions from retirees. Do you have any?
I think I see some.
Okay, so we identify who we have that will be retirees for comments and suggestions.
I see Mary Roebuck. I see Ronald Russell. I think I saw Aquanet Shinnery. So what I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, is that if a retiree wants to speak, they can identify themselves.
That's a good idea.
And I don't know how much time you want to give them. You may want to limit the time. Maybe 2 minutes.
Okay, that's a 3.
Okay.
All right,
Good
who,
morning. Good morning. This is Aquanet Shinnery. I see that the host unmuted me, so I assume I can speak now. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
yes.
Yes. Good morning to the board. I first want to commend you for taking this step. As some of you are aware, I have one that watches the YouTube and have complained about. I'm so sorry. I have complained about issues, and I'm so glad that we now have this opportunity. The first question, or probably my only question for today, I noticed when I watch the YouTube videos that, and I believe the gentleman is Rocky, or you're sometimes reviewing documents and turning to page this and page that. Are those public documents? And is it going to be screen sharing so that we can see those documents that are being referred to? It's sometimes charts and other things being referenced. That's my question. I'm Aquanet. I'm done speaking.
Okay, I would assume, subject to any correction by Mr. Nibs, that there's no harm in sharing them on the screen, unless there's some technical.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, this is something we have considered to answer a question. Anything that is said in regular session is a public. We are going to try to get everything on screen. I'm not sure if we can do it this session, but next month we'll put everything together as a package and whatever is discussed in regular session will be shared on the screen. Okay?
Okay. Does that satisfy you, Ms. Chenery?
Yes, thank you. That does. I appreciate it.
Okay. Who's next? Ms. Warbuck, Mary Warbuck? You're mute, by the way. Go to Ronald Russell. Everybody seems to be on mute. Who unmutes them?
Okay, the host, good morning. The host unmutes and I was muted, but I did put a notice on the chat to everyone that at this time I have no comment. But I may, before the end or maybe by the next meeting, I could have some questions because I do have things on my mind, but I'll just listen for now. Thank you.
Okay. So who's next?
I think the host is controlling in the room. So if we call a name, I guess, Janet Archer, you are Janet Archer?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a retiree.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm living in Maryland.
Okay. How can we help? Any?
Oh, no, this is my first time listening, so I'll listen and then have questions later.
Okay. What about Allison Ritter? Allison Ritter? I don't.
Go to the next. Go to the next one.
Roy Moorhead Jr.
No, Mr. Nichols, that's me.
Hello. Yes, sir. Do you have a comment, sir? He's on mute. I guess he doesn't want to say anything. Sandra? Sandra?
Morning. Can you hear me?
Morning. Yes.
No, I'm just listening to the meeting. This is my first time attending GR's meeting. I am a retiree.
Okay. Let's see. Shelley DeWice.
Yes, Shelley DeWeese.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. My first time tuning in, and I'm glad to be here. And I'll just listen in.
Okay. Nice
I don't
having
have
you.
comments at this time.
Okay, maybe we could find out, we could ask a blanket question about, find out who wants to have, who has a comment or who wants to say something. I mean,
It's gonna be hard unless, I think what happened is the host has them in a waiting room and they're muted, so.
okay.
I see someone by the name of Eric.
Okay, we have to find a more efficient way to handle this.
Yeah, I think what we can do, Mr. Chairman, is next time we would ask them before if they have a comment, and then we can have the names and before the meeting starts, so we can just put them on whenever. Okay.
Okay.
Also, Trustee Dorsey joined us.
Okay. Okay, so we'll jump to item number 5 on the agenda,
Yes, sir.
Secretary's minutes. Secretary's minutes.
Need a motion to,
Oh, no. You need a motion for what?
we need a motion to approve the minutes. I think we have two sets of minutes. One is a special meeting minute in April 14 and a regular minute on March 25th. So we need motions to accept both minutes.
Are we doing the active members?
I don't think I see any active members on the participant list.
All right.
Okay, so I assume everybody read the minutes, so I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes. So we have two sets of minutes, right? We have the minutes of the regular meeting on the 25th of March, and the minutes of the special meeting on April 14th. So start with the regular minutes. Have a motion to accept the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Before you do that, I would simply note that on the March 25th minutes, where it says Chairperson Bori's report, there seemed to have been a combining of your report with the administrator's report. So there should probably be a separation or designation there. I believe it's on page 2 of the minutes. Yes.
There's always a separation. It's just that somehow it was deleted.
Okay. Any other comments, corrections for the minutes? If not, do I get a motion to accept them?
I move to accept the minutes from the
Can I get
last
a
board
second?
meeting.
Did I get a second? Mr. Dorsey, I think I see your mouth moving, but you're mute. Trying to get a second for the minute.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hello? Yeah, the system, morning to everybody. The system wasn't allowing me to get in. Also, Chair, I literally just got the documents for the meeting today, so I can't actually participate. I haven't had a chance to review anything. I
Mr.
got these
Dorsey.
documents this morning.
Mr. Dorsey, electronic copies were sent to you 2 days ago. You picked up some package yesterday. We didn't get the package down in time. I called you and you got them this morning. However, you had access to the electronic documents. I just wanted to be clear.
I requested these documents 4 or 5 days ago in previous meetings. Hard copies.
Mr. Dorsey, let it be clear so that we don't, you're not blaming anyone. We're trying to accommodate you as much as possible. The documents we discussed in the Oversight Committee meeting, I prepared them because you told me that same day on Monday, and I took them downstairs. The electronic copies of today's meeting were given to you at least 2 days ago. The hand copies were delivered downstairs this morning, and I called you and I told you about it. But you had electronic copies prior to.
Okay, do I get a second for the motion? So I'm not getting a second to the motion to accept the minutes last meeting. So I'll go to the
Mr.
main-
Chairman, that's because practically everybody's muted and they cannot unmute. Miss Smith just.
Let me check the host
Right. Miss Smith just called me and told me she's muted. She can't unmute.
Could we do a 2-minute on hold? Let's hold it, everybody, while we try to figure out what the technical issue is.
Sure.
I would recommend to the host, Mr. Moses, that you unmute all trustees. Mics, please.
I did already.
Okay. So I'm not sure.
So I see Mr. Dawson is showing as muted.
Maybe he did it himself manually.
Oh, okay, Mr. Chair, in regards to the special meeting, I would like to make a motion to approve the special meeting, but I was not in attendance for the regular board meeting, so I want to abstain from that. Because I know you said you want to do it in a bulk.
No, I was doing them separately. So
Okay.
I didn't get a second for the regular meeting minutes.
I second.
Okay. So it'll be moved and seconded.
Chair, did you hear what I said? This is Trustee Dorsey as relates to the documents. I'm not talking about an oversight committee meeting, Chair. I am referring to the previous general meetings where I requested documents 5 days prior for me to review. Hard copies.
The documents are not available 5 days prior. We try our best. And I'm telling you, we sent you electronic copies 2 days ago.
Okay, well, 2 days ago, Mr. Nibs is not working for me.
So
I need a 5 day prior. So that's why I was asking before, Chair, if we need to change the date so that we can have time to review documents, because it's a lot of work to review to come here and vote on something. And I don't feel like we should just be passing stuff through to vote on. I need to be able to thoroughly review the documents because I do have questions.
Okay, well, the changing of the date of this meeting is out of the question, obviously.
Correct.
So I guess your option is not to vote on the acceptance of the minutes.
That's correct as well.
Okay, so we have it's been moved and seconded.
Okay. Trustee Colwood,
Yes.
Trustee Dorsey,
Dorsey not voting.
Trustee Liger,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald, absent. Trustee Smith,
Abstain.
Trustee Barry,
Let's clarify. We are voting on which set of minutes?
March 25th, last month's meeting.
Okay. Yes, the answer is yes.
3 yes, 1 not voting, 1 absent, 1 abstain.
Okay. So that motion carries. So now we need a motion for the special meeting on the 14th.
I move that we accept the minutes from the special meeting on April 14th.
I get a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Trustee Colwood,
Yes.
Trustee Dorsey,
Not voting.
Trustee Liger,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald, absent. Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Barry,
Yes.
4 yes, 1 not voting, 1 absent.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you very much. Communication and correspondences.
Okay, first correspondence is memo. I just wanted to get it clear because this was something that we discussed in the meeting with the subcommittee last week, and there was a little snag, and I wanted to get it clear so that we can understand. This is the reason why we are including it. It has to do with billings of missing employer contributions. We had agreed with the government, the OMB and the finance a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, that we would set up a system where we would receive monies, and when we receive monies in lump sum, we would curtail billing the agencies on a monthly basis, or not on a monthly basis, but when someone has retired and their case is completed and they have missing employer contributions. So as you know, we have been getting funds from the Internal Revenue Matching Fund, and we put them in a lump sum, and we liquidate those amounts every time there's any type of billings for missing employer contributions. So we just updating the staff that we should not send out any bills to the Office of Management and Budget and the central government departments that report to the governor, also the legislature and the judiciary, which is the Supreme Court and the Superior Court, for missing employer contributions, to include actuarially determined contributions, also known as ADEC. This will only be done for the central government, legislature, and the judiciary. It will not be done for the autonomous agencies. Those agencies will continue to be billed accordingly, and we're doing that. It's just that we had an issue with a billing going into the legislature, and we just want to rectify that situation. Also, on April 20th, we sent out, like we normally do.
Exactly what he said. I thought it was very.
Somebody has an open mic.
I sent out a memo on April 20th, 2021 as regards to retired employees returning to work. This is done every now and then. We send out these letters to the head of the departments, and judiciary and the governor gets a copy. Also, the inspector general, because he has a current case going on right now. We also send it to the Board of Trustees, and everyone just reminding them of what the rules are, what the law is, and we also submit the way we monitor the return to work, which is on page 1 after the letter. So this is just a notice to remind them that what the law is and what is expected of them. Back in on March, well, back in 2018, there was legislation that was approved, Act number 8132, Bill number 320193 was passed in legislature to name the Casino Commission building after the Honorable Eileen Peterson. This act was not implemented. So therefore, on March 30, 2021, Marvin Pickwick, who's the current commission chairman and the CEO, wrote to the chairman of our GRS board, reminding him of the act that was passed and asking for approval to go forward with erecting the sign bearing the inscription, the Eileen Ramona Peterson Casino Control Building. I discussed this with the chair, and he authorized me to respond to Mr. Pickering, and I did so. I'll read the letter into the record. In response to Mr. Pickering, in response to your letter dated March 30, 2021, to Nelon Barry, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, regarding the implementation of Act Number 8132, the Government Employees Retirement System, as the landlord of the building being leased by the Casino Control Commission located at 3005 Orange Grove, has no objections to the commission erecting an appropriate sign with the words the Eileen Ramona Peterson Casino Control Building to the building, as long as the signage conforms to sizes regulated in the Virgin Islands Code. Therefore, the Casino Control Commission must submit a rendering of the signage to the GRS for approval for conformity to sign sizes regulated in the Virgin Islands Code. Sincerely, Austin L. Nibs. Copies to the board: Pedro Williams, Board Counsel; Kathy Smith, General Counsel; Ishmael Myers, Deputy General Counsel; and Aisha Clendenin Gums, Acting COO. That concludes the correspondences, sir. You're on mute, Mr. Chairman, you're on mute.
Okay, so that's it for correspondence?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the chairman's report. I want to report on the session.
Point of information, Chair.
Go ahead.
We have an opportunity to ask questions in reference to what Mr. Nibs just read?
Yeah, yes, go ahead if you have a question on his. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a question in reference to the letter dated, I guess with the attachments, retired employees returning to work. And if you go back into retired employees returning to work on July 17, 2019, well, I was trying to get clarification on, I guess because it's legal, it says exception to legal double dipping. So basically, if I understand this correctly, you can do 30 years in the central government, and then you can run for the Senate, and you can receive an annuity from the system while serving in the Senate, which is the first branch of government. Is that correct? Is that what I understand here?
If you retired from the executive branch and using your scenario and you ran for the Senate and was successful, you will continue to receive your annuity, yes, because that's the law, and collect a salary as a senator, yes.
Okay, so this gets a little confusing here. I don't think we should have legal double dipping. This money is coming from one pot. So here it is, we're sending or recommending to send employees home in the GERS system itself, cutting the workforce by half. And then we have this situation here going on. To me, this is another way the system is bleeding. Also, I mentioned in the last meeting, in reference to professors at the university. Apparently, they're allowed to be in a second retirement system and not pay into the GRS system. Something in the law, I never got a copy of the law. Attorney Myers mentioned that he forwarded it to me, but I never did get the document. But that's just another area of concern that we have. I guess that's legal. That's not double dipping, but there's a law that was read in, an item that was read into the board meeting by Attorney Williams, that all government employees would have to be part of the system. And now we have these exceptions. So one of the questions I have, Chair, I think we need to fix this law, this double dipping, legal double dipping. This is crazy to me, legal double dipping. This is the first time I'm seeing this. So that goes back to what I asked before to to the board and to Mr. Nibbs, I don't think we should be allowing any employees at this point to even be confronted about laying them off if we're going to have this legal double dipping. And I think we need to bring that to the Senate. I'm not sure if you guys who had your meeting last week with the Senate Finance Committee group had a chance to go over those issues, but that's something we need to look at. And then this other item in here, in that same legal double dipping, it talks about the senators working 3 terms and being eligible for an annuity. That's something else we need to fix. And then it goes on to say in this section that the governors, lieutenant governor, are getting their annuity from a different area. So we need to tie that in to this same retirement system as well, because it looks like we're taking money from one area of the government to service the Senate branch at this, I mean, the government house at this point. So I just don't feel right that we're saying we got to lay people off and reduce annuities when the people who set the law are not even really, even though it's legal, I just think it's the right thing to do. I think, how can I sit there as a senator and say that I want to not vote on a bill to help the system 2 or 3 times, or not come up with a solution, and at the same time, because the system has allowed, through the same Senate, the representatives just to sit there and receive an annuity while the system is suffering overall. So I think we need to address that. Now, I'm not sure if it needs to be addressed by our council, which is Pedro Williams, or the 2 councils in the system, but we need to deal with that issue. And then I see something else in here about returning to work. And I'm not clear on that, Mr. Nibbs. Is it says in here, returning to work on a contract, not on a contract. It seems to be conflicting to me as well. I don't know if you can clear that up.
Mr. Chair, may I respond to a couple of items that Trustee Dorsey brought up?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning, Trustee Dorsey. In terms of the
morning, Council.
In terms of the legislation, morning. In terms of the legislation that I read in the last board meeting referring to the professors, I sent it to you via email. However, I will print it out after this meeting and place it downstairs for you to pick up. In terms of the other items in which you mentioned, all those items in which you mentioned are permissible via legislation. And the only way that we can basically put a halt or stop or whatever you want to it is via legislation. So if you want, we could prepare draft legislation and have it submitted to the Senate. But as of right now, everything that you've mentioned there is law, and we must follow it until changed.
And just to add to that, Mr. Dorsey, we cannot submit legislation to be changed unless the board approves it. And it would be done by the GRS Council, but we need the board to approve any changes to the law. We cannot take it upon ourselves to do that.
Well, I guess my question is, Chair, there's another document I'm trying to find this section, but I think it's return to work under contract. Mr. Nibbs, I'm trying to get clarification under the contract, what you put in here. Maybe you can guide me to it. Skim it. I just read it.
Attorney Smith, could you respond, please?
Nibbs, I don't have that document in front of me. It wasn't in the board packet, so I'm not looking at the exact language. But under the code, if you return to work on a contract, you're still limited by the provisions of Section 706C. So a nurse who's allowed to return, or a teacher or a police officer who's allowed to return can return either on a NOPA or a contract. The code does limit them to no more than 55,000 if they come back on contract. Additionally, there are some members who come back under a third-party contract. So I may get hired by an agency or a business, and that business hires me. That business gets a contract with the government of the Virgin Islands, and they have me come and do work on behalf of that contract. So I think
Yeah,
that's
but
what Ms. Nibbs was referring to.
okay, so if you, isn't a contract at this point? Is that's a clarification I'm trying to get here. I think it's the bottom of July 17th letter, Mr. Nibbs, where it talks about you coming back to work under a contract as an employee. So I try to understand, if I set up a company and I contract with a branch of government to do business, am I circumventing the process at that point, or does the current laws prevent me as a government retiree coming under the contract to work? Because in here it says contracts for all employees hired or retired into service. So I just trying to understand, is that something else we need to clear up to send to the Senate to get it changed? Because a lot of people just start having companies, and then we'll start having these kind of situations where people will be circumventing the process. So is that a loophole we need to fix as well? Because I'm seeing two things here. I'm seeing one, just coming back, not notifying the system. And those HR people you're referring to, I guess sometimes they do what they have to do, sometimes they don't for whatever reason. So I'm not gonna really look at that. But maybe that's something we need to apply in the law as well, that there's a financial fine for the HR members who are not doing their due diligence to assist us in that area. It shouldn't just be a slap on the hand, because financially it's affecting the system overall. So I try to get clarification on the contract. Does it matter what capacity you come into as a retiree as relates to a contract? Is there any part of the contract process that you would be exempt and be able to come back to work, Mr. Nibbs? Or Kathy?
Okay, Mr. Dorsey, I just spelled it out. If you are hired by a third party who gets a contract with the government of the Virgin Islands, then you are allowed to come back. For instance, Mr. Nibbs retires and he gets a job with LNC Contracting, who does maintenance of the roads, and they get a contract with the government of the Virgin Islands. Mr. Nibbs is allowed to come back and work for LNC Maintenance Company and do work for the government of the Virgin Islands, because he's an employee of a third-party company that has a contract.
But we need to see a copy of the contract to
Yes.
determine.
We do ask for documentation so we can verify it.
Okay, so how do we fix that? I still feel like that's circumventing the process, because at the end of the day, it's the same government money. And this is what people are missing. It's the same government money. So maybe we need something in the procurement laws to indicate that under these circumstances, when you're doing business with the government, you're not going to be allowed to hire those retirees to come back and do that. And I'm not talking about nurses and police officers. That's already there. And that was there because a lack of human resources to fill those positions. But I'm just saying in general, because right now, if the Senate who makes the law is allowed to collect an annuity, and I don't know how many individuals over there are collecting an annuity. I don't have that information. You guys can forward that to me. I would like to know that. But outside of that, it's kind of strange that, you know, bills are coming to the Senate, and all this time, certain senators have been collecting an annuity while still collecting their salary. So that's like what, 150,000 a year, not the 85,000 that we hear all the time in the news. I don't understand that. So I was just trying to get that part clear. So is that another item that council can work on to close that loophole out? We need to close these loopholes because they do add up.
Okay, so you your original question have been answered, right? That you understand now what issue is, and then you're talking about, you're basically saying at this point you don't agree with it, and we should be advocating to get that change. I mean,
No, what I'm actually saying, Chair, because you guys been here before me, and when I came in, we were talking about volunteer reduction in the workforce for the government employees of the retirement system. So if they have 80 employees, the goal is to get them to 40. But I truthfully wouldn't vote on any, or wouldn't have voted on anything in that area of concern if I knew we had these other loopholes. And the biggest loophole is our first branch of government. And when I look at even the letters that Mr. Nibs wrote, I don't, unless I'm missing it, I don't see the first branch of government even CC on these documents.
Yes,
I don't
they are.
see them on there.
The president is, sir.
The president of
Everything
the
that you're
Senate
discussing,
is.
we have discussed this with Senates for I don't know how many years since I've been here.
yeah, I was just going to
Well,
say
I'm not,
that. Well, I was
I'm
gonna
not
say,
trying to go back. I'm just trying to go forward.
Mr. Okay,
I can't go back.
we need to move forward in this meeting also.
I agree, Chair, but we do have a blatant act here that's an activity that's affecting employees and the organization that we oversee.
I understand.
So I'm
that.
saying for the record that we should have never voted on the voluntary reduction, knowing that individuals can sit and collect an annuity at the max and still get another 85,000. I mean, what is that about?
Well, these are conscious decisions that the legislature made. These are not loopholes in that sense. That if these are conscious decisions that the legislature made with full knowledge of the implications. Now, I agree with you that in the current context, that it needs to be part of the package of restructuring the system, and I think that's going to be the answer. That it be considered in the context of the restructuring of the system that needs to be done. We've seen the court saying that, the Third Circuit saying that, anybody who read the Moody's report, everybody saying the same thing. And the meeting we had with the subcommittee, which I'm about to report to at some point, all those things are going to be on the table as part of the discussion of how we restructure the system. So,
Well,
I mean,
Chair, I would just say this. I would just like to make a motion at this point, if I can. My motion would be to address the language of the code that's related to the legal double dipping for members of our government who are able to double dip legally, as well as the loophole and the members of our system who are under a third party contract and coming back into the system.
Mr. Chairman, I think what his motion should be is to include on the agenda in regular session, new business, and he can do that motion at that time. We need to move forward.
Under new business?
Regular session, new business.
Okay, that's fine. That would be my motion. My motion, Chair, under regular session, new business, to include the board today looking at the exceptions for legal double dipping from members of the first branch of government, and also regular employees that are able to come back on second and third party contracts. I so move.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the agenda as indicated by Trustee Dorsey. Do I get a second? I think it's fair to say the motion dies for lack of a second.
But Chair, you
second.
can't vote on it?
Excuse me?
Can you vote to give the second
I'm not sure.
as
if I
the chair?
can. If I can, I would not support it.
Oh,
Second.
But I think somebody said second.
Yes.
Said second.
Janet Archer.
No, you cannot
You
vote.
can't, she
Wasn't
can't
that a
vote.
trustee?
Only a
can't vote.
trustee can vote.
okay, so also, is it possible I can reorder the agenda? My motion is to reorder the agenda, the information for the Havenside Mall. I would like to have in a regular session.
Mr. Chairman, there are certain things that we're going to discuss that parties associated with the Havenside Mall should not know before the board decides. That's the reason why it's there, and we have always done that. If we made a decision that we can report out to the regular session after the executive session, then we will. There's some legal issues that we have to discuss. We don't discuss.
Chair, the whole system is right now under a legal issue, from non-payment from the central government to
Okay, we
the
have
legal double dipping. The whole
have a
system
motion.
is under the legal process right now. So
we have a motion to reorder the agenda to move Havenside Mall under into regular session. Do I have a second?
But Mr. Chair, Havenside is already on the agenda for executive session.
Yeah, he wants it moved to regular session. That's his motion.
But legally, you can't do it, so why
can't do that.
even
We have-
having a motion?
Well, I mean, so he
Guys,
calls for a motion, just don't second it if you don't think it's necessary.
Mr. Chairman, my time is limited here, so we need to go on with this meeting this morning, please.
Okay, so I think the motion died.
okay, so that, and my third motion, Chair, my third motion this morning, because I'm looking at the agenda. In terms of the alternative properties, the Havenside Mall, well, let me just leave that. I'll come back to that. Thank you. I'll come back to that.
Okay. So I think we were at the chairperson's report. And I was about to report that on the meeting we had, I was invited to, myself and Mr. Nibs and some council on this subcommittee that was formed by the legislature. It's a subcommittee of the Finance Committee, and it's chaired by Senator VLA, and it's called the GERS Restructuring, Solvency, and Economic Development Subcommittee. It was not a formal meeting. It was held in a room not in the chambers. There was no formal testimony given. There was no recording taken of the meeting. There was no swearing in. It was an exploratory session for discussion purposes. There were 7 senators present, and in terms of my takeaway from the meeting, I'd like to say that I think the net result from the meeting, from my perspective, is that I think we have the full and engaged attention of the committee. As I said, there were 7 senators present, and we had some discussion about some of the ways we can move forward. And I think, to me, what was encouraging about the meeting is the fact that there was nothing off the table. Nothing was off the table. There was a willingness to discussion the full range of options. We are going to, the senator has indicated that he is going to have a second such session in about 2 weeks' time. And he has asked the GRS staff to prepare some analyses that we will have our actuaries and our consultants work on to start to prepare an outline of a way forward. So we will do that, and we will then reconvene at the call, and hopefully that will be a good start to what we hope will be a solution to the fix of the problem. So that's basically my report on that meeting. And I'm really looking forward to the next session, and we'll begin to delve some more into the options that's available. I think once the step after that would be to develop an outline of a restructuring that will be then formalized in terms of formal hearings and testimony in the chambers. That concludes my report.
A point of clarification, Chair.
Yes.
So the follow-up meeting, is that between yourself and the committee with Mr. Senator Violet?
That's my
Or
understanding.
is that going to be with the rest of the board?
That's my understanding. It's his meeting, it's his call, and we will respond as he requests.
Well, even though it's his meeting, Chair, I, as a board trustee, I would like to attend.
Okay. I'll bring that to his attention.
Well, the point I'm making, Chair, I think we have to stop letting outside sources dictate how we function as a board. If any trustee would like to attend any function or have access to any documentation, which wouldn't be included in the same type of meeting firsthand, that should be a right, not a privilege.
I don't know if you have a right to tell Mr. Violet who's supposed to attend a meeting he's calling.
Yeah, we do have a right.
Okay, so. I think I've answered your question. All right.
Chair, can I move forward with the administrator's report?
Yes, please.
Okay, good morning again. On March 29th, I met with the Havenside Mall Oversight Committee and management, and the main discussion was the generators that we are considering purchasing. On April 6th, I met with the CFO and the General Counsel and Siegel in regards to the additional contributions that we call ADEC. On the 7th of April, I met with General Counsel, Deputy General Counsel, and Director of Member Services, discussion on the status of return to work cases. On April 8th, I met with the acting CEO in regard to update on the reduction in force program, St. Croix retiree election, and new trustee orientation. The 14th, I attended a special meeting. I also on that day attended meeting with Board Counsel, Systems Counsel, and WICO attorney to review and finalize outstanding MOUs with WICO. The 16th, I attended along with the chairman, the GRS subcommittee hearing on the GRS solvency. On the 19th, I attended again a joint Havenside Mall Oversight Committee and management meeting. Same day, I met with the acting CEO on various outstanding infrastructure projects. Yesterday, I met with the senior staff. As far as the retirement application as of April 30, 2021, we have 145 applications outstanding. We have 5 in 2019, 73 in 2020, and 62 in 2021. This percentage of completion is directly under those numbers. Some of the reasons for outstanding is no PERS, maybe employee missing contributions, and some other issues. As far as disability life certificates, it remains the same. We still have not received 28 of those 231. So those individuals, checks have been held until we have some indication if that person is still alive. As far as refunds, as you can see, from October through March, we have paid out $3.3 million. Of the $3.3 million, 2.9, or let's say roughly $3 million is for individuals who have not been vested. We have at least pending number of cases pending as of March 31, 50 cases, 44 for vested, non-vested members. Death benefits, so far we have paid out through March 31, $1.3 million. 16 of the 23 death benefits were active members, about 868,000. We have 53 cases left to be completed. For active retirees, we have 24, a total of 77 cases left. Annuity payments through April 15th, 2021. Number of retirees as of the April 15 payroll, 8,667 retirees. Total paid out for retirees and pensioners from October 2020 through April 15, 2021, $139,434,848.51. Number of retirees added to the payroll from October through April 15th, 123. The number of retirees deleted from the payroll from October 2020 through April 15, 155. The gross retiree payroll for paid date April 15 was $10,736,207.88. So we're roughly paying out more than $21 million a month in retiree payroll. Active employees of March.
So, okay, so that was of April 15th. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was last week. Active employees at March was 8,771. As far as the loan portfolio, currently as of March 31 has, for personal loans, we have 2,455 units. Of that 2,455, 1,338 to St. Croix, 1,117 St. Thomas. As far as mortgages, we have 86 mortgages outstanding. We have 59 in St. Thomas and 27 in St. Croix. The total amount of loan outstanding as far as the portfolio dollars is $29,622,485.75. The majority of these loans are going to be maturing about in around 2022. So you're going to see a big drop between now and 2022, 2023. But the last loans probably expiring in 2024, early 2025. Obviously, the mortgages extends through 2030 or more, through 2030 to 2035. As far as operation in St. Croix, there was a fire inspection. It was completed. As you know, we had carried this before, and then we had some delays in doing the fire inspection. That was completed. And the security doors installation, I had opportunity to look at them when I was over there last Friday. and they do have some more work to be done. However, it serves the purpose. The landscape project is 95% complete. The majority of the work is in our office complex in St. Thomas. The northern roof repairs were completed, and we have our approved 20-year warranty. We received that for that roof. Our air conditioner project, this is a big project. It's being done as we speak. It's very interesting. You can feel the difference because we're having some rerouting of air, but the project outside, you see the people, the technicians, they're doing whatever they have to do, and they're moving very rapidly. So hopefully, very shortly, we would be able to have the entire building and the air conditioning system in place. We have some ongoing projects. The lobby is going to be reconfigured, and contract is signed, and GRS received the designs and the buildings. We also have the hip roof replacement. This is another part of the roof. That contract had been signed, and we are waiting the drawings and the design of that roof on the main building. As far as the rental electricity collection, Exhibit A, March 2020, we collected $526,725.94. Of that amount, $301,171.61 was for rental. Difference was for electric. Total fiscal year to date, we have collected between rental and electric, $671,847.17. Of that, rental is $436,292.01. Arrearages to date is $200,737.88. Of that amount, $37,063 is rental. The balance is the electric. Leases, the only leases that are still pending is the division of personnel. We have the lease signatures that are pending. Obviously, there was a negotiated amount. Department of Justice, pending language suggestions. However, there's some objections from DOJ, and legal is working on those, on the language and trying to negotiate something with them. As far as the Casino Control Commission, received the language suggestions from the commission, and GRS is finalizing, is looking at the language, whether to accept or reject. The building appraisals, that's the building in St. Thomas and in St. Croix. Those appraisals were done a couple months ago. The completion is anticipated as far as receiving a report by April 30th in next week, really. We should be receiving those next week. St. Croix retiree election that started yesterday. As you know, the new cycle begins April 21, which was yesterday, and through May 12th. I heard a ad on the radio this morning, so hopefully we can have someone in St. Croix who's a retiree that can apply and be qualified to occupy that seat. Strategic planning.
When is that process supposed to be completed?
May 12th.
Okay. That's the third attempt, right?
I think that's the third attempt.
That is correct.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll have some competition and have an election. So we asking the retirees that are listening to, if you're qualified and you'd like to serve, please do so. We're going to be discussing the strategic planning in the regular session. So Ms. Clendenin is going to give us an update on that. On the RIF program, we had a meeting yesterday. Just want to give you an update. 9 employees submitted intent to voluntarily separate under our voluntary reduction in force program. Currently, 4 individuals have been accepted. And RIF program and scheduled to separate. One will be separated March 31, and 3 will separate in May 31. There's one employee who was denied the term of the RIF program and opted to stay on as a GRS employee. Also, there are 3 employees who were found to be ineligible as the position in which they hold are essential and will not be deleted from the budget. GRS may reconsider the 2 employees initially denied. We'll have to look at that some more. 1 employee will be offered a contract. Employee of the year for 2020, Henito Donovan, Messenger, St. Thomas office. His peers elected him. And Shimika Nathaniel, benefits analyst in the St. Croix office. Bonuses for USW and exempt haven site.
How are they going to be recognized?
Excuse me?
How are the 2 employees of the year going to be recognized?
Well, they usually recognize there's a government, Ms. Clennon is more up to that, but there's a government recognition ceremony that's usually held. I guess it'll be held virtual this year like last year. They will be recognized that way. And we usually recognize them also in our annual celebration ceremony.
Okay.
GRS payroll has processed bonuses for employees governed by the USW union to include employees working on St. Thomas, St. Croix, and Havenside location. They met all requirements according to the CBA. Exempt employees working at Havenside according to the approved budget by GRS board for fiscal year also were approved. FEMA insurance, GRS responded to FEMA to continue the process of obtaining the warehouses 428 monies. The GRS can withdraw at any time. We may be able to discuss this some more in the executive session at the Havenside Mall. That ends my presentation, Mr. Chairman, trustees. Are there any questions?
Done?
Yes, sir. That ends my report.
Okay. Any questions on the report? Okay, so next, move on to the next report.
Those are committee reports.
Jeremiah,
Any committee reports?
Mr. Chair, I do not have any committee reports for the Development Committee.
Yeah, then there are no committee reports.
No, not for me.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Good morning, Board Chair, other board members.
Good
This is
morning.
the schedule of receipts and disbursement for the Government Employees Retirement System for the month ending March 31st, 2021. At the end, I will give a brief synopsis. Receipts from collections, loan repayment, 1,137,491. Year to date, $7,313,738. Rent from tenants and utilities, $255,784. Year to date, $459,665. Employer retirement contributions, $8,368,439. Year to date, $47,619,701. Employee retirement contributions, $4,344,958. Year to date, $24,318,328. Parking facility, $380. Year-to-date, 4,600. Miscellaneous, 57,255. Year-to-date, 4,967,307, for a total collection of 14,164,306. Year-to-date, 84,683,339. Disbursements, annuity payments, 21,733,686. Year-to-date, 131,263,129. Administrative expenses, 1,287,385. Year-to-date, 7,195,893. Personal loans, 8,759. Year-to-date, 126,218. Mortgage loans, 3,039. Year-to-date, 74,298. There is nothing for retiree and auto loans for the month, but year-to-date retiree loan was 4,000. Refund of contributions, 1,129,223. Year-to-date, 4,764,074, for a total disbursement of 24,162,091. Year-to-date, 143,427,612, for a net cash deficit of 9,997,785. Year-to-date net cash deficit of 58,744,273. What this means in a nutshell is, in the month of March, GRS collected 59% less than they needed for their expenses. Then and therefore, we have a 41% shortfall of 9,997,000. Our year-to-date collection was approximately 3% less than the same period in fiscal 2020. And our year-to-date disbursement was reduced by 2%, or 3 million over the same fiscal period. Year-to-date administrative expenses is approximately 43% of our budgeted amount for fiscal year 2021. Due to the year-to-date shortfall of 58 million, GRS had to withdraw from the portfolio, the investment portfolio, 59 million to supplement the inflow of cash. So that's the brief overlook of what the report is all about. We move on to Havenside.
Before you move on, Mr. Nibs, this is one of the reports that we'll be able to put up on screen next time around?
Yes, whatever report we present, even my report, I mean, it can go on screen. So anything that we're reporting out, I think for the benefit of the viewers, we will put on screen, sir.
Okay.
Treasury report, investment report also.
Okay. I think that'll be very helpful.
Yeah.
To the folks listening in.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
We move on to the Havenside operation. And from the month of March, we collected 175,847. Year to date, 1,300,954. And we expended 343,869. Year to date, 1,752,147, for a net cash deficit of 168,022. Year to date, 451,194 cash deficit. For the month of March 2021, Haven site collected.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, on the deficit for Haven site. So how is that funded? Is the bank account is gone down? Is that?
The bank account has approximately 7 million in it, Mr. Chair. A lot of the funding, especially for the capital project, is from the insurance proceeds that we have received and some FEMA monies that we have received for some of the projects as well. So all of the cash outflow is not from the Haven site operating cash.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So the $451,000 is a wee bit overstated, right? Or misleading, if you will.
Well, it's a cash flow statement, but if you want to put the source of income, then all of it is not operating income.
Right.
From our insurance proceed.
Okay, so somewhere on the cash receipt side, I guess we need to show that some of the cash is coming from federal funds. So, okay. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so but the bottom line is that the $451,000, all of that did not come out of the Insight Mall bank account.
It did not come from Haven site operating revenues.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Go ahead.
And that's the end of the report, Mr. Chair.
Anybody has any questions?
Chair, I have a question, Mr. Trustee Dorsey. I would like to make a motion as well for Haven site projects and the other alternative investments, that we address these issues prior to the general meeting in the capital development, under the capital development committee, so that we can drill down more and have more time to ask the questions instead of getting all of this in one shot in the general meeting.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Coley is on the line. Make a note of that. I think we're trying to we're trying to find a date for a committee meeting. And I think it was supposed to be a committee. Which committee was that going to be?
Development committee.
Huh?
Under the development committee. Okay, so because Haven site is doing capital projects through an oversight committee, I understand that. And which the board we have oversight over. We're not really there. So I'm saying that all capital projects should be under the development committee prior to coming to the general committee, so that we can drill down on the questions we may have in terms of direction.
I'm agreeing with you, Mr. Dorsey. I'm agreeing with you. It's probably surprising you, but so what I was going to say is that we're trying to set up a committee, and I think I'll make it a joint committee, so that the joint committee of the budget and development committee, so that we could address those, because we're having difficulty finding people's time for these committees. So rather than trying to set up separate committees, we'll probably do a joint committee and, try to tackle as many of the issues we could once when we have people available, board members available.
So you're combining two committees now?
I'm suggesting that we do a joint committee, so that we to try to fit a budget committee and then Development Committee, and then there's, how many, we have about 4 different committees. We're going to be running out of time to schedule folks for these committee meetings. So I was going to suggest that we'll do a joint committee. I mean, it doesn't matter what we call a committee as long as you get your issues addressed, right?
Okay. Are you going to be the chair of that committee?
And I probably won't chair the committee. We'll figure that out.
Okay.
Um,
So is that for next week?
I think Ms. Coley was trying to find people's availability. There should be an email going around, because I think we have an orientation, board orientation sometime next week. So we're going to be doing a survey to get people's availability for the next committee.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I add something? I like to make a recommendation, which I think would be more efficient.
Sure,
Falls under the investment committee. I think if we have an investment committee which comprises of all board members, then the other committees, the subcommittee like the developmental committee can report in, and also the budget committee. I'm hearing Trustee Dorsey talking about projects and things like that. I want to remind him that the board already approved the projects for the Haven Site Mall, right? They already approved the projects. Contracts have been signed already.
Okay, well, let's hold this thing for the meeting, because I'm not.
Okay, because, but I would recommend you have an investment committee and have the subcommittees report to you, because you can make some decisions there that would, encompass everything that we're talking about.
Okay. That's kind of what. Okay, all right, that's fine. I mean, that's like a joint committee, maybe it's quite different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but let it be an investment committee meeting, and then let those subcommittees report in.
I'm fine.
Decisions.
I'm fine with that, Mr. Nidge. We'll set that up. And I guess the items on the agenda will determine whether we want to call it what. That's what's important, right? The items that gets on the agenda.
Yes,
so
that's correct.
Okay. That's good with you, Mr. Dorsey?
Well, I really didn't need the clarification from Mr. Nibbs.
Okay.
I think I was clear on what I was saying. I was
Okay.
explaining that for the time I've been here, Chair, under the capital projects, the focus has primarily been on appraisals for the 2 land properties and the 2 buildings, basically, and Haven site. But that's not moving forward the capacity of the system. That's all I was saying. So I thought we could have been more focused, since we do have an established, under the rules and policies, a development committee. Yes, it has some finances in it, but I don't want to put it in a finance committee and then we get caught up into this loop that we're in now.
Well,
I was thought we could just get right to where we need to go, because I think we as a board, after going in and sitting in the oversight committee, the first oversight committee, I realized that these items need to be in the capital development committee so that we can start to move things forward, not look to sell the assets. What we need to look forward on that front, because I was at a disadvantage, to be truthful, in the oversight committee.
Well,
I was just at a disadvantage.
We'll set it up, Mr. I mean, for me as chair, doesn't really matter what you call the committee. The important thing is to get your item on the agenda so it be discussed. So we'll figure that out. I mean, the committee that Mr. Nibbs indicated can comprise all members of the board. So you can't ask for a better committee than that.
Okay, if that's what it is, Chair, then that's what it is. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. So we don't move into regular session unfinished business.
investment report.
Oh, oh, yeah.
We have
Sorry.
to, a motion have to be made to accept the treasurer's report, and then we'll go into the investment report.
Chair, I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
You get a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Trustee Colwood,
Yes.
trustee Dorsey,
Yes.
trustee Liger,
Yes.
trustee McDonald, absent, trustee Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Bowery,
Yes.
5 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. Investment officers report.
We should have Leo Festino from Nikita on the line.
Yes, and good morning, everybody. Pleased to be here today. We emailed materials a few days ago. I'm happy to pull those up and share the screen if those would be desired. Otherwise, I can just speak about that report.
Put it on the screen, Leo.
Will do. 1 second. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
All right. So here's what I plan to cover today. A quick synopsis of what happened in the last quarter, statement for performance and market values for the fund as of March 31st, and then a recap of the cash flows that have taken place during the recent time. So I don't expect this to take long, maybe about 10 to 15 minutes maximum. I'll stop along the way for questions. I'll start with performance broadly for different markets. I'll sum it up as saying on the equity side, those areas that didn't participate much last year, smaller cap companies, value stocks, financial stocks, energy stocks performed the best. And those that participated most last year still produced gains, but more muted. What probably was the most critical news was the big increase in interest rates, mostly driven by increases in inflation. And so relevant to this fund, TIPS, which are Treasury inflation protected securities, lost about 1.5%. And the most critical one is the core bond position that lost about 3%. This does not happen very often, but at times it does. In 1994 was one instance when interest rates went up about 300 basis points. In 2013, we had another episode. And in those times, bonds produced losses, but they tend to be moderate, typically in the low single digits, as was the case in this first quarter. On the other hand, when there are corrections in the equity markets, like it was the case 1 year ago, you can see double-digit losses, 20, 30, 40% or more. So certainly more muted on the bond side. I will skip now several pages to touch on inflation and unemployment. So you'll see the big uptick here in the last few months, bringing it to above average compared to the last 20 or so years. So the last measure was about 2.6%, the change in inflation. And that's driven by positive momentum in the economy. You'll see unemployment continue to decrease. Now it's sub 6%. So all those are good news, continues to move the market forward. There's good amount of stimulus, both fiscal and monetary, coming from the government. Good news overall, relatively speaking, to other parts of the world on continued vaccine and COVID cases. Some parts better than others, but still overall much better than just a few months ago. So with that, the next section looks at your fund specifically. And the first thing I'll note on page 18 is that at the end of the quarter, we sold out the equity positions and the TIPS position, primarily because this was what in anticipation of additional cash demands to pay benefit payments, but also taking advantage of a very strong run, essentially locking in strong gains. As you will see on the next page, as you will see in a few pages later, the gains were quite robust on both of those portfolios. So the fund now holds, most of the positions in bonds and cash, with some legacy positions in the two private equity fund of funds that continue to perform quite well and distribute back money. On page 19, you can see the trend. So US equities in blue were about 40% of the fund, and over the past 3 years, they've been reduced and eventually eliminated just a few weeks ago. Most of that has gone into fixed income and cash, and those are the sources to meet the continued benefit payments. Here's performance. As I mentioned, bonds lost about 3%. We had gains on the equities. When you combine those together, also with gains on tips, we arrive at a loss for the quarter of 1.9%. The good news is that in what goes in April so far, in just a few weeks, bonds have posted a gain of about 1%. So about half of this loss has already been recovered in the past few weeks. So obviously that's not shown. And from this point on, that's all that matters to this fund, is how bond markets perform, because we are unfortunately with limited capital and no longer hold any equity positions. Here's the performance that I was alluding to earlier. So equities over the last year gained about 60%, 60%, and tips gained about 8%. So very strong performance also on the bond side. And so those were the two positions that were sold. Those gains were locked and moved into mostly fixed income and some in cash. And then below you have the two Mesro funds continue to pay back, and now we have about 11 million in those positions. So I'll skip over a few pages to page 24. This portfolio is very efficient. It now holds just two products. One is the BlackRock debt product, which cost about 5 basis points. That's the lion's share of the assets. And then the Pew actively managed fixed income, also a very conservative strategy, cost a bit more. The blended fee about 7 basis points. This provides a good synopsis of what you own today. So roughly 300 million in fixed income. And if you look at the table on the top right, you'll see the yield to maturity. So that's more or less what you would expect a bond of high quality holdings to return, about 2% per year. So we're in a period of low interest rates, so it's very challenging to make a lot more. On the other hand, you cap a lot of volatility. As I mentioned earlier, if we were to go through another period and we are mostly invested in equities, we can see our holdings be cut in a third or more, as the average correction in the last few times has been about 30 to 35%. And if you look at the tables on the bottom or the charts on the bottom, you'll see the very high quality, with about 70% of holdings comprise AAA securities. Those are the highest rated bond instruments out there. And a large portion of this is comprised of agencies, treasuries, and high quality credits. So to wrap up, and then I'll take any questions, on page 32, we have cash flows. And so for this quarter, roughly $8 million have been, close to 8 million were used to pay benefits net of any contributions that have come in. And during the fiscal year today, so that's about half of the year, it's about $40 million, the net cash that went out. And over the trailing year, it's close to about $100 million. So again, the way you read this is you have the beginning value, which was just under 500 million, and you have the net investment change, which in this case was a gain, and you have the ending market value. So in this case, you would subtract the investment change from the ending market value, and you'd be pretty close to 390 or so. And so that means, when you subtract the beginning market value from that, it's close to about $100 million. So that's what you saw going out of the fund. And recall, Mikita does not cover or advise on the local assets. Those will be in addition to these assets, which is get a report, and for purposes of actuarial or other matters, those are included, but we don't have any good insights on those, and better those positions than Mikita would. So with that, I will conclude my remarks. I will stop this presentation. Happy to pull it up if anybody has questions pointing to a specific page. So I will pause now. Thank you.
Chair. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Dorsey. You had a question?
I blanked out on that page 34. Can you repeat 34?
Leandro, you're mute.
I was muted. I said, sure. Let me pull it up. Page 34. Give me 1 second. Okay. So this is a fiscal year to date, page 34. It shows the beginning market values of October 1 being 463 million, excluding local assets, and the ending market value 6 months later of March 31st, 2021 at 427. We did have an investment gain of about 4 million. And so what you see here is roughly $40 million that have gone out to pay benefits and expenses of running the fund during the past 6 months.
What did you say? I'm sorry, what did you say went out? 44 million?
40 million, give or take, was used from the system's assets to pay benefits net of the contributions that came into the system.
Okay. So can I ask you a question? Can you add another category on that to reflect that? Can you break it out?
Yeah, we can do that going forward for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to actually see it in this section of your report where it shows the actual cash that was drawn down to pay to retirees. It would actually say that a line that was drawn down.
Yeah, it is implied
for the quarter,
but we can do it
for the quarter and year to date.
Yes, we can do it in the next report and make sure it is very evident and stands out easily, so there's no calculation to be made.
Chair to Mr. Nibbs, can you note that for the record?
We have that information. Ms. Jeremiah can give it to you. We know what is drawn down every month, so you can get that information.
Yeah, I would like it in a clear report in this report.
That's Nikita's judgment. They're doing a report. However, I'm saying to you that we can give you that information.
I understand, Mr. Nibbs. I just wanted in more than one place clear. Thank you.
Leo, could you do that?
Leo has indicated that he will put it in the next report.
Yes, correct. We can do that.
Thank you. I had another question in reference to, I don't know if you're able to get hold of an article that was in Wednesday's Daily News that talked about the Moody's report of the VI refinancing the bond debt. Has your company had a chance to look at that? Is that going to affect us in any way?
Mr. Nibbs, is that the article you sent us, and as well as the actuaries on Wednesday?
Yes.
Is that what?
Yes.
Yes, I reviewed that article and I'm pulling it up as well. What is the question, Mr. Dorsey?
What did you gather from the article? Because I noticed in the article, the board itself was not part of the solution in the article. And I'm not sure why. It was kind of one-sided. My interpretation of the article was more of the governor and the first branch of government and the court indicating like who should be trying to recover the monies. And even if they recover those monies, it's still not going to be enough to shore up the system. So part of the article is all right, but the parts in there where I don't know if people are actually listening, because we have a lot of areas, if you've been listening to me today, that we're legally able to allow people to double dip in the system. And I know that's not your part, unless it was in that retreat report that I haven't gotten up to now. But these are areas that should have been dealt with, because all of this adds up to cash for the active and retirees. So I was just wondering, when you look at this report, what did you really gather from it? This article, sorry.
Yeah, so if you're referring to the Moody's report, my understanding is Moody's is looking at it from the creditworthiness of the Virgin Islands to meet interest and repayment of principal of any bonds that he has outstanding. And essentially, it was saying, well, these $40 million that now the government doesn't have to pay GERS, alleviated a little bit, but it still is the minimum amount, and the largest liability remains the pension system. And as such, this doesn't move the needle. And I think the article concludes that if the pension system will go insolvent, it's also very likely that there's going to be some kind of default with respect to those bonds that are outstanding. And so I think that was the summary. That was my interpretation of the Moody's article. It's from the perspective of the bonds that are outstanding more than anything else.
Yeah. Also, let me just say this: it still seems to me we're going to need a third party to assist us with this. I just don't think people are getting what's going on from the top. I think we're just coming here every month and we're just more or less reiterating the same thing through these reports. But I think we just need to be able to sit down and come up with a plan and bring the plan forward. But I don't think that plan is going to come from the same first branch of government who's legally double dipping. I didn't even know that was going on. So you heard me say that many times today. You heard me make a motion to address it, and we still didn't address it as a board. So I'm not sure if we just spinning wheels here or what we really here for to do. So, and I did request a meeting through the chair that we meet with the governor even before this report came out as a board. We need to meet with the governor. You can make a note of that as well, Mr. Nibbs. Thank you.
Mr. Boy, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Any other questions on the investment report? Do we need to accept that, Mr. Nibbs? Do we formally accept that report?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the update to the strategic plan. Who's going to present that?
Good morning.
I think there were new business that Mr. Dorsey wants to make a motion on, or reorder agenda or something. Can we do this now? Attorney Williams?
Yes, if that's the chairman's desire.
Okay, what was the issue he wanted to what was the issue he wanted to reorder the agenda for?
I can't even remember.
Mr. Dorsey, what was this you wanted to reorder the agenda for?
I had wanted to discuss the, kind of slipped my mind here. I was here reading a document.
You wanted to address you had made a motion to address the language of the legal double dipping and to close some of the loophole on the second and third party contract issues.
Yes, I so move. That's my motion.
Well, I don't think it's time for motion.
Oh.
I think you wanted to add the item.
Yeah, I want to add it on. Yeah, I want to add it on the agenda. And my other question to legal counsel, I'm not sure if it's the system or Attorney Williams. Who would be the attorney addressing this issue from a legal standpoint? To send it to the Senate for a vote to change the law.
Good morning again. It would be the systems attorneys.
Okay, so do you guys have any draft language already that you submitted prior to me coming to this seat? So we don't have to reinvent the wheel?
I believe I have some draft language, yes.
So Chair, I'm asking, can we get a copy of that? And I guess we can address it in committee?
Certainly.
I'm not gonna hold up the meeting today. We can address it in committee. I just need my copy so I can start reviewing prior to, whenever you set that date, Chair.
But Mr. Dorsey, you have somebody at the legislature that's are willing to put this bill in perspective?
Yes, yes. I was suggesting that we can do it two ways. I can give it to who I need to give it to at the Senate. And also, we can forward it to Government House. That's why we need to meet with the governor, because he's able to send it down and special order this to the floor, because it's that important to the system.
Okay, Mr. Dorsey, let me make sure I'm clear. The language
I'm gonna, Kathy, if I may, Mr. Dorsey, I think there are a couple of things that we probably need to address it systematically. One is, I think you had a motion to amend the agenda to add the item. So that needs to be dealt with if you still want to proceed in that fashion. Secondly, if your desire is to see the language that the system has relative to this issue, and then have the chairman assign this issue to a committee, that's, kind of part and parcel of the same issue. And that might probably be the best way to go. Because even if you put it on the agenda today, I'm not sure that the trustees are prepared to address the issue without having the language in front of them, etc. So maybe your approach ought to be have the system send the language that they have the issue assigned to a committee, if that's the chairman's preference, have the committee vet the language and then bring it back to the board. Because at the end of the day, it has to be a board decision or resolution that says, we want to send this language to the legislature, or we've adopted this language for approval for it to be then sent to the legislature. You follow what I'm saying?
I follow what you're saying, and that's a very good recommendation. Chair, are you good with that, Chair? You can assign it to a committee?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Dorsey, could you just clarify which language you're talking about? Because we talked about the legal double dipping, we talked about coming back on contract. So I just want to make sure I'm clear what language you're looking for.
Both.
Okay, I have language on the contract issue. I will have to work on the legal double dipping, because that has never been something that has been discussed or even thought about doing, because it was not anticipated that the legislature would revoke that. But we can come up with some language for that.
Okay, so
that would be great.
Send him what you have, and I think you probably have a discussion with him prior to the committee meeting, so that you're both clear on what is it he wants, and you're clear as to what is it you need to prepare and present to him ahead of that meeting.
Okay.
So Chair, do we need to invite senators that would be interested in moving this forward to that meeting?
No.
I think we need to discuss it first.
Okay. There are people that want to actually make this happen, believe it or not. I'm not sure why it didn't happen before, but there are individuals who want to make this happen and some other things happen for the system.
Mr. Dorsey, just so I'm clear, there's
Individuals who have a
senators.
vote?
The senators are not the only ones who legally double dip, you know, there are also judges. So do you want the judges
I want
included
the,
in that?
I mentioned that, Kathy.
Okay, I just
Sorry,
wanna-
Attorney Smith, I mentioned the judges in the document that I just got this morning.
Okay, I just want to make
It
sure.
it talks about the judges, and I also want language in there to address the governor and his annuity coming into the system. That has to change as well.
Okay, the governor's annuity is not paid by the system. The governor's
That's what
annuity.
I understand that. That's what I said earlier.
So I'm not
His
clear.
annuity is not paid. His annuity is not paid by the system, but it needs to come into the system.
But
We
the
all need to
governor-
be in this together.
But the governors don't serve enough of time, so you would put a greater liability. If a governor
Exactly.
serves 4 years,
Exactly.
he gets a pension. We don't want that liability for somebody who serves 4 years to get a pension for the rest of their life. So I think that it's my opinion that the governor and the lieutenant governors should stay with the finance department and not
I
take
agree.
on additional liability.
I agree.
Or maybe we need to make recommendation that if they want to get that annuity in the future, they'll have to serve more terms. That's all. The Senate just did it to themselves. They put themselves from where they was to serve in 6 years and being entitled to an annuity. I'm a class 3 worker and I can't work 6 years to be entitled to annuity.
But does
So
the
that doesn't
governor,
make any sense.
but does the governor decide how long he serves?
No, we're talking about recommending a change in the code so that the governor and the senators will have to work more terms before they're entitled to an annuity.
But the
At the end-
governor, by law, the governor can only serve 2 terms. So that would still only be 8 years and he would still get an annuity. So you're
I
taking on
mean,
greater liability.
I think that's why these things need to be vetted in a committee where we could delve into all those intricacies.
Can you just forward
is
the
why-
language for the categories at least? So that we can look at it in committee? I think that could work.
You got it, Kathy? I mean, Attorney.
Yeah, I can send the language for which members of the system are allowed to double dip. That's not a
Ms.
problem.
Smith, Attorney
Yeah.
Smith, that should also include those professors at the university, because their option should be an alternative investment, but they should have to invest in the system as well, because they're getting paid from the same general fund.
Okay.
We fund them at least over 51% as a government. And I think that's the only HBCU that's getting that type of funding level throughout the whole country.
Okay, I will include that.
So they're not
language.
exempt. And whoever else you know that's riding the system unconsciously, they need to be part of it. So whatever other language you have, just submit it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good on that?
Yeah, we're good on that. There was something in Mr. Nibbs' report, Chair. He was talking about something with employees in the system. I didn't catch it. Can Mr. Nibbs repeat that? It was before the employee of the year, I think.
Has to do with the RIF program, sir.
Okay. Okay, so Chair, my position with the RIF program, asking members to volunteer
Right now that
to leave.
we need to get back.
And
We need to get back
Huh?
to the. We need to get back to the agenda. I mean, we have an agenda to finish today, Mr.
It's
Dawson.
GRS employees we're talking about, sir. We're not talking about the general central government employees. We're talking about the GRS employees.
I agree, Mr. Nibbs, but all I was trying to say that the kind of monies the system itself is paying out, these employees should not have to leave the system. We need to stop paying out the monies that we're paying out currently. My understanding is we're paying out monies in your building, prepaying for services that the tenant should be paying. And also we're doing something similar now at the Haven site property. So I'm saying when you look at the type of monies we're paying out, no one should have to voluntarily separate or be asked to separate from the system at this point. I think we need to take care of, for example, the electrical scenario you have at the GRS building where you are actually prepaying the bill.
Mr. Dawson, we need to get back to the agenda. We're gonna be here all
Yeah,
day.
man, let's move on and we can just bring them back up.
We have time. I mean,
Okay.
you know,
Is that something you want to take to committee, Chair?
yeah, I mean, if you want to bring that up in the chair, I mean, we discussed that already.
Yeah, I mean, if this is Michael, to me, isn't this micromanaging? Why are we getting involved in that?
I mean, we had a long discussion. And
I agree. I agree, Chair.
Hold a second. We have discussed that, and we made a conscious decision after a discussion. So you're asking us to revisit that decision that the board made. I mean, we made that after a long discussion. The issue around the reduction in force was not necessarily about cutting expenses. It had more to do with the fact that we're looking to go insolvent in 2 years. And we wanted to rather than, that's part of the wind down of the operations as a prelude to insolvency. That was the context, and
I hear you.
We had a discussion that was fully discussed, fully vetted, and voted upon. We can't go back and revisit those votes.
I hear you loud and clear. I hear you loud and clear, Chair, and I also hear my counterpart, representative. I was just saying that we just have to be fair. And I did not have the additional information broken out like we had in the last meeting. Had I had that information prepaying close to 100,000 a year, I mean a month, I would not have voted that way. And I don't think in good conscience, maybe the rest of you may not have voted that way. I don't know if you knew about that. I know I didn't know about it.
Okay.
And here now we're asking employees to go home. And when you subtract that out, that's a lot of money on a yearly basis for something that could be fixed for less than $500,000.
We're not asking them to go home. I mean, we're not asking them to go home. We're asking them to volunteer to separate. I mean, they'll volunteer to separate if they have someplace because they have other option.
That's phase one, Chair. Phase two is asking employees to go home.
Trustee Bori, are we going to move on to the strategic plan?
Well, I'm trying to get there. I mean,
okay, Chair, that's all I have to say, but I think that should go in committee as well.
Mr. Chair, can we get back to the agenda, please?
Please. Mr. Chairman, I am signing out at 12 o'clock, letting you know that.
Okay, noted. So I don't know where we are. We any update on the strategic plan? Who's going to do that?
As the question been that Attorney Williams said, we're going to forego. Is he going to pull back his motion? Mr. Dorsey?
Yes, we're just going to deal with it in committee. Attorney Smith is going to send him drafts or whatever she has to put together.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm pulling back my motion, Mr. Nibbs.
strategic plan, Mr. Neves.
Thank you. I'll have Ms. Glendon Gums present, please.
Pleasant good morning, trustees. As you know, the GRS entered into a memorandum of agreement with the University of the Virgin Islands to work on a GRS collaborative strategic plan for 2021 to 2025. Thus far, we have had town hall meetings to gather information from various stakeholders to include the community, the business community, the retirees, active members, board members. Coming up next, we are scheduling the meetings with the governor and the legislature. Last week, we worked on several historic and current documents and reports that the UVI team would need in order to start the next phase of our strategic planning, which is they call it the sense-making meeting, where the board members and representatives from all the various groups that attended the town halls would participate in. All the information that was gathered and the suggestions were gathered, we will sit down and go through all the comments so we can come up with a concept paper to determine the strategy with planning assumptions behind with what we're going to do going forward, the economic assumptions, social, technology, demographics, political, insolvency, all those will be taken into account. After that meeting is done, and trustees, we anticipate that will be done in early May. The final is the Visions and Goal Conference, where everybody gets together and see what we've outlined to put tasks and goals together with target dates and any monetary costs that may be attached to anything that we want to do. So we anticipate, with the help of the University of the Virgin Islands, that we should be wrapping this up by the end of May, beginning of June. That is the update.
Any questions on that, board members? Okay, just my question for me. What's the process in terms of adopting the plan? Is it a presentation to the board at some point? Is that, how does it get passed from you to become an official document of the GIS?
Well, the university usually present to the board when a final document is drafted and we reviewed it. The university would come and make the presentation to the board. If there's any changes that have to be made, obviously more input from the board, we'll consider it and make the changes, and after that the board will adopt it.
Okay, so that's, you're looking at the May for that, you said? Is that what I
Yes,
heard?
Chairman Brewery. End of May, beginning of June, the latest for that.
Okay. All right.
I'm not sure if there's going to be a board retreat. Usually board retreat is in July. I don't know if we set a date as yet, but you know, maybe something like this, if there are issues or further discussion, it could be done in the board retreat and adopted after the board retreat.
I suggest that presentation be made at the board retreat.
If it's not a rush, if you're telling me May, June, if we're saying that, then I would think that something like that, we have more time. It can be discussed in the board retreat, usually held in July. And it can be adopted then and then reported out and vote in the August meeting.
Okay, that sounds like a plan to me. That makes sense. We'll make that decision once we see the report.
Okay.
And so the next item is the update on the governor's request for loan program.
Yes, well, as you know, the governor had written us, written a letter directly to me in regards to a few suggestions, mainly in our approach to educating members about certain things like, finances and things like that. And also one item he wanted us to consider a loan program type of a participation with a financial institution. We responded to him and we told him exactly what we were doing in regards to webinars, and we had a partnership with AARP in regards to wills and estates and things like budgeting. And since that time, we did meet with two credit unions, one in St. Thomas Federal Credit Union, and then the Frederickstead Federal Credit Union. They came in with a proposal to us, and discussions was held, and they were interested. And we also wanted to bring in the St. Croix, the Christianstead Credit Union, and also Mid Island, because they're three different credit unions in St. Croix with different responsibilities and requirements. So anyway, St. Thomas Federal Credit Union went back to their board and presented what we had presented to them, or we discussed in the meeting. I'm sure I did mention to the board what we had discussed. And from what I understand, I'm waiting for a written document. The board did not approve participating in such of a program. So when I received that document, the governor did ask that he meet with us. He said, meet with you on the board. So he meet with us and we can discuss it at length with him at that time, and whatever other information that we need to discuss with him relative to the system. So I'm just waiting for St. Thomas Federal Credit Union to give me a written report. It was done orally through Ms. Dinin. I haven't received anything. I haven't spoken to the CEO there, but from what I understand, the board did not approve that relationship.
Two questions.
Yes, sir.
When you said they were interested, what were they interested in doing?
Uh-huh.
And the second part of the question is, that was a St. Thomas Credit Union, you say, show some interest. Was there any interest from the St. Croix Credit Union?
The Federal Credit Union, yes, in St. Frederickstead, I think, yes, they actually agreed. It seems like St. Thomas Federal Credit Union and Frederickstead mirrors each other. They use the same type of platform, and they agreed there in the meeting that jointly they had everything we discussed, they agreed to. What it was that the credit unions would obviously issue the loans, and they were looking at no more than $10,000, active members only, no retirees, with a payback period of probably no more than 5 years. And GRS, what GRS position there, or what we would have to do it within that process, would give them information about the members, obviously. Also, we would have to guarantee the amount of their collateral up to the amount of their loan. So if it's 5,000, we would have to set aside 5,000 from their collateral, which is their contributions. If it's up to 10, we would have to set it aside. So obviously there's a contingent liability that if anything happens where that member say resign and don't pay the loan at the credit union, we would have to, obviously the member would have to sign a document with us when they get that loan that we would have to take it out of their contribution and pay to the credit union. That would be GRS participation, just guaranteeing the collateral up to the amount of that loan. And these would be for new loans only. I wouldn't want to participate in any refinances or any current loans. Our loan program, like I said, the majority of those loans will be paid in by 2022, and the remainder by 2024, early 25.
At some point, you plan to bring that before the board for some resolution?
Well,
assume if I mean, what you have discussed with the credit union needs board approval if credit union comes on board, right?
It would need board approval, yes.
Okay.
However, since the credit union does now, their board feels that they should not participate, like I said, I'm waiting for a written document saying that. I'm not sure if I have to come to the board now. I just leave it die and report to the governor. I mean, you tell me. That's where I'm thinking.
Yeah, but I thought the chairman's inquiry was, what was the response from the Frederick said credit union?
Well,
if any.
Miss Clendenin is the facilitator here. From what I understand, I didn't hear anything from the Frederick State Credit Union. Plus, their participation would be very minimal. They were looking at maybe 500,000. When the St. Thomas were looking at 5 million. So if so it'd be very minimal. I mean, I can write to the Federal Credit Union, send them an email and ask them what their position is. But to me, if they come aboard, I'm not sure if we would want to. I don't think the board position would be to tie up the collateral like that, because we would have to separate the collateral and put it in a separate account. And the credit union was talking about having the ability to be a signatory on the account. I don't know if that's legal. So I can check with the Federal State Credit Union to see what their position is, but like I said, it seemed like they were jointly agreeing with each other. They came like a package.
Well, okay, I mean, before final resolution for an official response back to the governor, now he wrote to you.
Yeah.
But I think the assumption is that he is writing to the system.
Yes.
The official response has to come on the system via a board vote. So at some point, you're going to have to come to the board with some plan or some resolution, right?
Well, I can report out to the board. Yes, I can do that. I can report out to the board that there's not an interest by the credit unions to participate in this program. As far as the other educational seminars, we have already been doing that, and I did respond to the governor that if he had any further recommendations, we don't mind, implementing them, but this is what we did. But in regards to the loan program, I can write to the board. I can show, I'll get that done by next week. I'll follow up, but I know that St. Frederick said was supposed to follow up with St. Croix and Mid-Island, Christiansted and Mid-Island. And I got no response from them.
Yeah, I mean,
but I can check with Frederickstead and see what their position is, since we discuss it with them, and then get a resolution to it and submit it to the board.
But I got it seems to me.
This is going to have to be a board decision.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we'll wait to see what your report is and your recommendation is, if any. I mean, right now, you don't have, there's nothing before us to consider.
There's nothing before you unwritten to be considered because I'm hearing maybe I should go and check with Frederickstead separately. However, if I was to give you a recommendation right now, I recommend that we don't participate. Because if they don't want, and I know that there were other questions within the board about the collateral and also wanting to become a signatory to our account. So right now, if you ask me, based on the information that we got from the St. Thomas Federal Credit Union, which is the largest credit union, and we're willing to put up a significant amount, my recommendation would be no. However, let me do some research with St. Frederickstead, get their position, and I'll submit a written document to the board.
Okay. Any other comments from any board member?
Yes, Chair. This is Trustee Dorsey. I just had a question for Mr. Nibbs. For example, if this process was to go through, Mr. Nibbs, besides the signing of the obligation back to the system if a member defaults, was there any other funding that the system was going to collect in this process, possibly?
Well, on the interest side of it, as you know, our interest rate was 8% with personal loans. Used to fluctuate years ago, but since I've been here, it's been fixed at 8%. The St. Thomas Federal Credit Union, for secured loans, their rate was 4%. So because of the administrative, obviously there's some administrative cost to us for getting involved in this, with giving them information and things like that. We were requesting that they charge 8% and remit 4% to us.
Okay, so for that particular part, the environment that we're in at this point, I would suggest that when we get to that point, that percentage probably go down about 2% coming back to the system. And then the other thing, Mr. Nibbs, the governor proposed in a letter, I guess, to yourself about the loan program starting back up. But being that the governor is the sponsor of the plan, meaning the system, it would seem to me the governor and the first branch of government should actually find the several $1 million that's needed to put aside for the program for the credit unions and put it in a separate account, as opposed to bringing another liability to the system at this point, because each loan is just creating another layer of liability. So I don't think we should do that. Just a suggestion that whenever you get a chance to speak to the governor again, since he doesn't appear to want to speak to us, you can let him know that we should look at it from the standpoint that he find a lump sum along with the Senate and put that money aside for the active and retirees, and probably make the priority for the retirees at this point who are stuck on a fixed income in this pandemic environment. So that's how I would look at that. But if you get a chance to speak to him, maybe he could go down that road first.
The governor did not say he didn't want to speak to the board. In his letter, he said he would like to meet with you and the board. That's what his letter said. That's how he ends his letter. And number two, we have discussed with the senators before with the Senate funding the loan program after the board suspended it. Because as you know, Senator Gatens had brought back legislation to force us to go back into the loan program. And the board made a decision based on their fiduciary responsibility that was not feasible to do so at this time. If we did get a lump sum, I mean, a large infusion of cash, obviously the loan program was very fruitful to the system. We earn at least $9-10 million a year. So, but based on the cash flow and the insolvency, pending insolvency, the board made a decision. So it's not that the governor didn't want to meet with the board. He said you and the board. So if I'm going to the governor, I always invite the chairman or someone on the board.
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna be invited, Mr. Nibbs, because I see how our meetings are moving right now. So I'm saying to you, Mr. Nibbs, when you and the chair get to the governor, because that seems to be the process, just let him know that I said he needs to find the money as the sponsor of the plan, because right now we're in court with him. So it's like we calling the kettle black. It's not even being fair to us who are here. We can't even get from him what we're supposed to get every month. So now he's going to send you a letter about starting up a loan program for us to take more money out of a dying, sinking ship. That's not even realistic to us. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I just trying to make sense out of the letter. It ain't making no sense. I'm saying he needs to find the money with the Senate. He just wrote this bond refinancing article in the paper. Find the money, give us the money to put aside so we can get this program up and running. So since you mentioned Senator Gittin's name, I indicated that to Senator Gittins already. You guys need to find the money because you find money for what you want to find it for anyway. I don't see that as a big issue. It's not a lot of money. So they could find that money. Please make a note, Mr. Nibbs.
In regards to what, sir?
Find the money. Ask the governor to find the money with the Senate to put that money aside. We should not be messing with the money in the system. We just got a whole financial report. The man just said we had like $40 million they had to take out recently to pay the retirees. He had to draw down.
That's my take on it, except I think as a board, we need to, my personal view is that if we respond as a board, we need to respond to the proposal.
Yes, sir.
You know, this thing about telling the governor to find it someplace else, I don't think that's a board response. The governor's made a proposal. I think our obligation is to respond to that, yes or no, and give the reasons why. I mean, I'm on the same page as you, by the way, in terms of the board's position. I mean, starting a loan program is contrary to everything we just went through and we just heard. We got 2,500 loans outstanding, almost $30 million outstanding in loans. If we go bankrupt in 2 years, we're not going to collect those. We go bankrupt before we collect that. I don't understand how we start up a new program. We just heard from the investment advisor saying that our posture is towards liquidity. We're pushing all our investments to the liquid assets because we need them to draw down to meet monthly payroll, benefit payments. So investing in 5-year, well, I guess mortgage loans are out the question. So I don't see, it seems to me that if a loan will have you'll have to have a 2-year term if you're going to be insolvent in 3 years for us to back that. So that's my personal take on it. So I'm not surprised that the credit union board said no. And I'm waiting to see what, at the end of the day, we have to make a decisions about what the board's position is going to be, regardless of what the credit union's position is going to be. And so that is why meant when I said that at some point, before a response goes to the governor, it has to be a board-approved response.
So Chair, are we going to do this in committee or what are we going to do? We taking this to committee too? I don't want to hold up the time. Members saying they have to leave. I have a lot more to say. So we're going to take this to committee?
Well, I mean, that's not something we have to discuss now because we don't have anything before us.
Right.
We still have to get something from Mr. Nibbs. Right?
I think, Chair, that we need to recommend something else to the governor outside of what's been recommended. We already have our litigation cases going on. We as a board can come up with something to recommend to the governor and the Senate.
Okay, so that has to be a board decision. So when we come to that discussion, if you have an additional recommendation. If it's a board recommendation, then there has to be a board vote on it.
Yeah, I'm saying we could do this as a board, but I'll ask if we're gonna do it in committee or we waiting to the next meeting next month.
Well, recommendation is if we have Mr. Nibs give his report and his recommendation, and we review it in the committee meeting, and then at some point we have a board vote on it for an official board response. That'd be my recommendation.
Okay, so you're carrying it to committee?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So Mr. Nibs, you need to finalize your discussions with it and have your recommendation sent to for us to review, and we'll make a formal board response based on a board vote. We're clear?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So next item is the executive session.
Chair, I would like to make a motion to move.
I need a point of information, Chair, before we go into executive session.
Go ahead.
I just had a point of information, clarification to Attorney Smith. Attorney Smith, if you're still there, that last item, or maybe second to last item I was requesting, was employees who are retirees returning to work on a contractual basis as a consultant, and then the retiree being paid through a third-party entry. So I need that as part of that document.
Okay, Mr. Dorsey, why don't we have a,
Mr.
Dorsey, why don't we have a conversation offline about this? And then.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, and then we can, because I have some of the stuff you want already. So let's have a conversation offline.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Get a motion for executive session.
So move.
Second.
Roll call.
Yeah, you have to state the reasons why we're going into executive session for the record.
Okay, could you read out the thing, Trustee Smith? Yeah.
Okay,
Then-
I make a motion to move into executive session to hear legal matters and personal matters.
Trustee Calwood,
Yes.
trustee Dorsey. Trustee Dorsey,
I was on mute. Sorry about that. You said the executive session is going into legal matters and personnel matters. I don't see personnel on the agenda. Was that added on before I came on?
Dorsey, there's a language that we read every time.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay. Okay, yes.
Trustee Liger,
Yes.
trustee McDonald, absent. Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Barry,
Yes.
5 yes, 1 absent. Before we continue, we would have to remove those individuals, those the retirees and any active members.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. Give me a second.